You are now tuning in to the Going North podcast with your host, best-selling author and professional speaker and member of the John Maxwell team, Dominic Dom Brightman. And every Monday and Thursday, we're going to hear the voice of a different author sharing their gifts, stories, and expertise to help you charge forward in life. Now let's get on with the show. And today on the Going North podcast, we bring you some fabulous humans from across the globe. Today is no different because we got another special author in the building all the way from Japan in the city of Tokyo. First ever, my goodness, this is actually the first ever author from Tokyo on the show, let alone the whole country of Japan. And this wonderful lady right here, not only is she bilingual, she is a self-mastery enthusiast and renowned deep thinker. In addition to being the author of the fabulous book that releases today in terms of when you'll hear this, The Game of Self-Domination, she's also the host of Life Up Education TV. Having built up her life from nothing but multiple times in a foreign country, this fabulous lady right here has not only gone to finish her American University education in business and economics, and not only that, she's also worked with hundreds of innovators, entrepreneurs, and next-gen thinkers in the United States. And despite her young age, she's worked and helped dozens of CEOs and young startup founders skyrocket their success, all while building her own online businesses on the side. So let's give it up for Miss N.O. herself, Miss Natsune Oki. How are you doing today, ma'am?
Hi, Dominic. Thank you very much for having me on your show. I'm doing pretty good. It's actually kind of weird that we're like completely in a different time zone. It's 11 a.m. here, and then over there it's like, I don't know, 10 p.m.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's 10 p.m., so yeah, the corny jokes are going to be coming.
I'll be looking forward to it. No, but seriously, thank you very much for having me on your show. I was very looking forward to this.
Oh, my pleasure indeed. It's always great to feature young entrepreneurs, especially young lady entrepreneurs, out to make a name for themselves and to create something that'll last longer than them.
Yep, I'm excited to be here.
Woohoo! With a big old X, I bet.
Huh?
Yeah, with a big old X.
X?
Yep, excited.
Oh, yeah, excited. That's true.
Yep, definitely lots of corny jokes ahead. Well, alrighty.
Okay.
Don't worry, it's all good. Most of my jokes, folks wait 12 hours to get them. It's all good. Don't worry. It's all good. It's all good. But yep, as with all bios, they're not allowed to be 500 days long, and there's always stuff I miss. So mind filling in anything I may have not touched on and tell us about who is the wonderful natural Natsune herself?
Yeah, of course. So my journey began even before I went to the United States. I kind of mentioned that on my short bio too, saying like I was like a failing high school student who was almost kicked out from the Japanese education system, and which is very much true. So up until around then, like when I was high school, which is like very early age of your, adulthood, I guess, like going into the adulthood, I actually started being a loser. And I'll describe what it means. So basically, I have always been very different, unique individual with unique voice, unique opinions of things. But in the society here in Japan, especially, the system is not built like that. Education system, especially, the way they teach stuff is either right or wrong. And I think a lot of Asian people can kind of relate to this culture where everything is either black or white, and then there's nothing between kind of mentality. But to me, like, I really couldn't fit in to sort of like what was called like a correct thing to do, you know? And then To me, I always had my opinion, I always had my own unique expression, and I got in trouble by expressing those feelings and expressing those thoughts. So at the end of the day, like, I eventually started getting into so much trouble. I started being labeled as a loser because I always couldn't follow any rules. I was kind of the person who wouldn't follow any rule if the rule didn't make sense to me. So that's how I kind of got started. And I got really frustrated by the fact that I couldn't be myself. And in high school, as young I was, I started hanging out with the wrong people. And then that was kind of like my way to express who I was, like boycotting to the society, right? And then showing them that like I can be whoever I want. But then it was expressed in a obviously like a wrong direction. And I was trying to still find myself in that journey too. So basically what happened was going from just frustrated teenager wanting to express myself to like bringing myself into a situation where I was constantly causing troubles. And I was kind of doing things just to make the society wrong, prove the society wrong. And then at some point I always knew that even though I was labeled as failure, I always knew that I was meant to be someone unique. So I decided I decided to kind of go back to the society roles, and then I wanted to be successful at the time too. So I started acting like what was supposed to be, but then again, like I just couldn't. I didn't feel right. So one thing I could think of at that point was, let me go out of the country and then let's see if there's somewhere else in the world where there's place for me. So that kind of led me to go to America. And I decided to study business. But then I also wanted to make sure that was something I want. So I actually took some years off, and then went on working with entrepreneurs and for entrepreneurs, and who actually, I would say, entrepreneurs and innovators. I was very much attracted by the concept of entrepreneurship. I didn't know what it was that attracted me at that point, but I just wanted to see the world as it is, like not from like a very safe place, but I wanted to see it in like a wild place where there's like a lot of desperation going on still. Like I didn't believe too much on just like getting your like a normal 9 to 5 and get the good salary, blah blah blah. Like I never really believed in that old story. I always wanted to be a capable person in the world. So I decided to take some years off, which was another courageous decision I made. A lot of international students that I knew at that point would go straight to university or Washington like right after. But then I was like not ready for that. And so I decided to take that years off. And then what ended up happening was that year was a significant year for me as well, because that year really changed my mind about a lot of things. I always look at business as like the field of study, but then that was the year that really gave me insight about what I'm interested in, what I'm mean to bring to this world, which is what I'm interested in is impact of the society, impact of the money, impact of the capitalism in people. I'm not necessarily only money driven person. And I mean, I acknowledge and I appreciate the system of capitalism, but money at the end of the day is not the conclusion of happiness, the conclusion of like what we are striving for as a society and humanity, I think, at the humanity level. So I kind of saw that through that year while I was working with a lot of like technology entrepreneurs, innovators who were definitely like a next generation thinkers. And then they were living like few years ahead of us. And this was like in Amazon. This was in Washington, where there's like all these tech companies were just moving into that direction. So we had like Facebook headquarters, Microsoft, Amazon, like all these tech people were there. So I really took advantage of that environment and really further developed my understanding of what I'm interested in. Then I kind of came back to my conclusion saying, let me study like more broader perspective of society rather than just going all into finance and business, because what I'm essentially interested in involves a lot more than just money, but also it has something to do with technology, education, like all these small pieces, like how they play together to advance our capability as a humanity is what I'm interested in, basically. So I decided to major in economics instead. And then I kind of wanted to be more generalist than more like a specific person in that sense, to be able to look at the world from the angle to find what is needed in the next generation for us to move forward as our species, right? So basically that was my foundation of why I chose the economics study, and I really enjoyed it. And then so what happened was, after that I kind of like decided to make a new life again. So at that point, like, I was moving around like crazy, like until this point already, like I had to start my life up once again from, you know, Washington State, just like moving by myself, like not having anything with me and just completely just starting, right? And then I still moved around within the same state. And then I also came back to Tokyo and I worked here as well. Also with another company that was run by this, my best friend actually. He's a Swedish entrepreneur who has a company in Tokyo. But anyway, so I decided to start a new life in actually Florida, Miami. I decided to move there. From there, basically, that was like whole bunch of other things happening, you know, things waiting for me, especially like very hard stuff. Well, first, when I moved there, I just really couldn't bring myself to find any opportunity, really. I was a foreigner. Here I was, I didn't know anyone. I didn't have money. I didn't have a place to live. At one point, it got so bad that I had to move from one place to another in a matter of week. Like, it was such a like a chaotic environment, you know? And nobody wanted to hire me because I was foreigner. So there's a lot of uncertainty in hiring foreigner, especially if you don't have like a work visa, which I did, but then it was very limited. So, you know, people would think of that first before doing anything. So, you know, I struggled a lot, and I actually found a company, started working there, but it was just miserable. And it didn't seem like I was doing anything right at that point. You know what I mean? Like, I was like moving from one place to another in a matter of a week. And then I still had, at that point, was coming to my second, like, really challenging year. So I was still like even going back to wondering where if I did make a right decision at that point, you know, because on the other hand, I could still pursue like a usual corporate ladder at that point, you know. But then I decided to just throw myself in a foreign city where I knew no one. I mean, the language was very much different. I mean, they still spoke English, but then the culture is a whole another vibe from going to Washington to Florida. You know, so but I just kind of needed a new start. So I kind of wanted to start there. And yeah, like I said, like I had a lot of adversities, like navigating through that chaos. But in the end, I kind of like basically I found this mentor person, and who actually brought me in a lot of opportunities. And from that point, I kind of just started achieving all these things that you mentioned in the end. And one of the newest exciting thing I'm working on is publishing a book, which is called The Game of Self-Domination. And I'm pretty excited about this one because this basically documents the whole documentary of what I've been through and what kind of mindset I had to imply in order for me to really survive and not die. Because there has been like some times where just it was just so hard, you know, it was just so hard to just navigate through all these storms. And I also created those challenging times for myself, so I am not blaming anything. And I frankly, I'm very thankful that I chose the path that I chose, which was very unique and different from others, because that essentially led me to come to the conclusion of me writing a book about it.
Well, congratulations right there indeed on deciding to document your experience and your work as well as some research from other people. And there's so much to unpack there, especially with the beginnings, because I know of Japan, it's a collective society. And just like you mentioned earlier, it's so black and white from what I understand. And if I'm not mistaken, the suicide rates are so high over there, or at least they were at one point, right?
I'm not sure about the suicide rate anymore. I actually did a research also because I was writing a book. But I think one thing I can say is that people are very serious here, you know? Like there's just so many rules and there's just so many you can't do this, you can't do that kind of rule that people die from just literally being too serious about their life, like very stressing from the rules. And then we called it as karoshi, which indicates that people die from working too hard. And that literally predicate on the culture that people are very serious here.
Yeah, it makes really no sense to be serious all the time. It's like, yes, hard work is necessary in life at one point or another, but you still have to be able to find a semblance of a balance in a way, because there's, as we all know, balance is really a thing in life, but really just being able to give yourself time to rest and relax and to have somewhat some fun time.
Right. So this is why I guess I'm a big promoter of finding yourself and aligning your like everything, literally your mind, your body, everything into one direction. Because so this is I'm taking from Tony Robbins, but he said something about like don't try to create work-life balance, which I 100% I agree on him, because the thing is what you want to create is work life integration, as he said. And when what you do is your mission, like what you do is your purpose, it doesn't feel like working. And then like for example, when I was building one of my online stores, my friend was like, well, why are you working on it, like you're not making any money? But then the thing is, I would have still much rather working on my online store, this was like a very early stage, um, than just hanging out with friends with no purpose. I mean, I'm not saying that hanging out with friends is good, bad, right? Like you need those times too. But then, like to me, it was just so much more important for me to, you know, deliver to my promise. That was like my top high priority. And because of that, I was mentally healthy, even though I was working like crazy. Literally, I was like not sleeping very much and I was like working all the time. And my friends were like very surprised. But then, like, I couldn't do any better because, on one hand, I remember this very moment where I came out of the gym and I was about to go work, and I'm looking at all these people on the street, and then they were like literally heads down, like, you know, to the ground, and they were just like walking like zombie literally. And I thought, wow, like all these people are like my friend, like they are looking forward to have the weekends, like they can't wait for the weekend to come, because this was like a Monday or Tuesday. But then I was just so thankful. Like I didn't even think bad for me not having the weekend. Instead I was so thankful that I didn't have the same feeling. I couldn't wait to get up next morning to work on my business. So at that point, what I created wasn't exactly work life balance. I didn't have any life balance, but it really didn't feel that harsh. I felt really great actually about it.
Hey, and that's the main thing. As long as it's something that you feel great about, because we all need that in life to really have that fulfillment that we all desire, whether we want to admit it or not.
Yeah. Hmm.
Well, congratulations on the book itself. So, what inspired the cover?
The cover?
Yeah, because you got
Um,
this light bulb in the middle and all these other light bulbs. It's like they're bowing down to it.
right. So I wanted to communicate something about self domination. My book is, I'm such a big advocate for speaking about your self talk matters. The way you create your narrative matters. Like, that's the biggest message for me. So I kind of communicated that. And I also listed like a bunch of other covers that I saw was pretty interesting from bestsellers to my designer. And then she basically came up with that. And I wasn't sure if I liked it at first. I liked the color theme, but I didn't know if I liked it. But then if you think about it, the light bulb, so it's 15 steps, you know? So light bulb, you have a 15 light bulb right there. And then, you know, at the center, you have yourself. So you have the 15 steps to approach to the light bulb at the center, yourself, to find yourself, basically. So if I started looking at that, it was kind of cool. But we did a couple of revision to try to see if there was another design. But in the end, we all came to the conclusion that the one that we have currently was the best one. So we picked it there.
Cool, cool, cool. That's what I'm talking about. Because it's definitely an interesting cover and an interesting title. Like with
Mhm.
self domination too, it's kind of kind of extreme when you think about it. Because it's like there's domination, but it's like domination of self. So is it? So where were you going with that? Is it like subduing yourself and disciplining yourself?
Yeah, I think not necessarily, but yeah, I think it does have some components of that too. Because you need to focus, right? No matter what. Like if you want to achieve something, you need to focus. So you do need certain levels of discipline if you want to be a leader in your life. But what I talk about during the book is basically I talk about mental transformation in 3 phases. And then all of these phases basically comes back to the point of what do you really want, you know? And then you need to be very aware of who you are. You need to be very aware of what you believe in, what you like to do, like what you believe. Like these are the things that you need to align with whatever you do. So that is essentially why I come back to the title, just to kind of explain a little bit more background of what the 3 phases of transformation is. The first phase talks about creating decisiveness, momentum in life. So what makes us to create that action, what makes us to commit to create the action is decisiveness and that burning desire that is created in a moment. So everybody has this moment in life where they're just so sick of whatever they have and they have no option but to change it. You know, that's the moment where people commit. And in order for you to bring that moment, you need both inspiration and desperation. So you can't just move by the inspiration, which is basically your ability to think that something is possible, right? Like in order for you to create that decisiveness, you need to truly believe that whatever you're trying to do is possible to achieve. That's like a big thing. And then you also need a desperation. Once again, this is a desperation where you're just so sick of your life situation. You just needed to like change it. You have no other option. And then for you to have that, you have to have very strong sense of who you are. You have to know yourself. Self-awareness is very important. So that's what I talk about. And I actually lay out actual practical exercises that people can do to create that shift in life and also to find yourself, like self-discovery. And then the second phase, I talk about faith and resilience, how to create faith and resilience in life.
Sounds beautiful and fabulous indeed. Nice little package right there. And one thing that I did pique my interest was the self awareness. Since you're so very young, and there's folks out there in their 40s and 50s who still don't know what they want to do in life, how were you able to find out what you wanted to do in life now through this book and everything that you're producing at the moment?
So I think I don't believe that self-awareness come from just one idea. I believe that self-awareness can change. It's not like set on stone kind of concept, just like life. You can change your mind, like it doesn't matter. But then I think the way you find it inside of you is, first of all, you cannot be afraid of being wrong, right? And then unless you try, you don't know what you like, you know? And I think so many people are afraid of trying and failing. But if you are like that, like you wouldn't even have a chance to be who you are. You wouldn't even have a chance to find what it is that you like. So you needed to be willing to try so many different things. And then with an attitude that at the end of the day, if I fail, whose opinion matters the most? Is it my opinion or my parents or my girlfriend, my husband, like whatever, my coworker, like, but other opinion really matters as much as yours. And to me, all these things, answer is no, was no for me. So I always gain my courage to just try everything that I got any slight interest hands on. And then some of them I didn't like it. And then I ended up not liking it as much as I thought. And some of them I indeed liked it, you know? So that's probably the best advice in terms of like the first very step I would say that people should do is to abandon your fear of being wrong and also divorce your ego of you need to be someone because you're really not. And I guess in a very like a macro sense, you know, your meaning of it, like existence, you're not meant to be someone, you know, like you're just really like a sip of the entire ocean. Like in a positive sense, I use this analogy to encourage people to try whatever. Is to say, yo, like in a good way, your life doesn't matter. But another way to look at it that's encouraging is your impact matters. What you leave behind matters. So that being said, what you do, who you become doesn't matter, which is what stops so many of us from trying to even find ourselves by trying many different things. But essentially, I guess what impacts you can leave behind, which includes you as a person, like how excited could you live your life? How happy did you live your life? How many people did you make happy along your journey, right? Like these are the things that matter at the end of the day. So in order for you to be that person, you also kind of need to be happy yourself, right? And then for you to be like that, you need to pursue whatever that is that you need to pursue. So I'm borrowing this quote from the ancient Greek philosopher Aristotle, which I mentioned in one of the video you probably watched. He said the definition of happiness in life is virtue activities of the soul. So meaning that you're signing up for your journey. You're signing up for not the destination, but whatever you needed to go through while you're pursuing something. And then during this process, you are meeting your best self. You are becoming more capable person. This is the journey that's beautiful. And this is the journey where you can really expand your full potential and have the chance to touch people, lives of people, and then give them the inspiration by showing the way of your living, you know? So I think to come back to your question, in order for you to create that self awareness, like I said, you cannot be afraid of being wrong. You need to be willing to try as many things as you think might be your interest. And then statistically, some of them might fail, but then also statistically, you'll find something you like. You can stick to it for a long time.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Because fear is something that we all have to deal with at one time or another, and being able to get past it or at least deal with it effectively enough to get to a higher level of awareness is definitely key. Definitely key. So, with this wonderful book and your wonderful Life Up Education TV show, that's going to be big in the coming months and years to come. What's next on the list for Natsune? Because I know you got this wonderful book. It's going to be fabulous. But what's next for it? Because I'm pretty sure you got something else planned that's going to be huge.
Well, my ultimate goal with Life Up Education TV is I want to make it as a TV show where I interview people, interview high achievers, and then deliver a message of like what it is that makes them persistent, what it is that makes them courageous. Like these are the inspiration of mine. So I want to bring that out from other high achievers to communicate that with the world. So that's something that I'm thinking I would do. Um, and for for my book, actually, I'm not seeing it as an end at all. Like this is another thing. I think I believe speed is important, like for sure. But I also think that I'm not a sprinter. You know, I run my marathon, so I'm not done with everything I'm doing. You know, I need to keep doing it, keep doing at it. Um, So I would say my next ambition still keeps continuing with Life Up Education TV. I really want to take it as somewhere between like a impact theory and then also Ellen show, which is gonna be really fun. So I want to make that as a TV show, and I want to keep promoting my book because it has such a great message, and I want to reach to as many people as possible. And also, I have my other business that I'm doing, which is called Foreign Connect. And this is a business that helps Japanese companies to hire American businesses to enter American market. So that's another thing that's kind of something that I'm working on. But yeah, these are the things that I'm working on. And um, like I said, I think too many people give up too early, and I think that's also the current dynamic of like all these internet entrepreneur saying like get rich, like like drop shipping, try internet business, blah blah blah, and then you can make money. I made money just a matter of a month. I made like $100,000 sales. But then if you look at it, how much of these is profit? Like how much did they actually make? Is it like 20%, 10%? Like how much did you actually make? And then another miss of this is that sustainable business, so if you dig deeper into it, like any business cannot be done in the matter of 1 or 2 months. I mean, you can make a quick money, yeah, sure, but then that model cannot be very sustainable. There's just like um the bunch of ongoing things that's going to happen. So in order for you to create like a real business, you need to be you need to be persistent, and you need to keep doing at it. And then I think this is another wrong message the current internet is delivering, is people are so cynical. Like they make people cynical because they basically, a lot of people have this attitude of like, let me work at this, let me do this for 1 month, like all these other entrepreneurs doing. And then as soon as they realize that they couldn't make money just a matter of a month, they just kind of start being discouraged about it. But then if you think about it, if you want to be business owner, I mean, Uber is not making money right now, like Uber is, it is a really very established company. But then if you look at the balance sheet of like a financial status of these companies, all these tech companies, a lot of them are losing money. Like, I mean, for the first few years, they haven't made money, but then their value is like hugely predicated on their value, their future prediction of the company, right? Like that is why a lot of people think these companies are rich. But then that's really not how business works. Like you need to keep working when it's not giving you any return, and then and maybe some years in, then maybe you make some money. But that's kind of the mindset you need to start from. And then if that's not you, it's that if that's not for you, that's great. You don't have to be entrepreneur for you to be successful, like in a financial term. And then that's why, once again, I emphasize the importance of self-awareness. Not everybody needs to be entrepreneur just because of the, I guess, you know, whatever the hot topic of the current dynamic of the society right now is, you know what I mean? Like what everybody's talking about is like, it really doesn't matter. If you don't want to be entrepreneur, like don't do it. You know?
Amen to that, because that seems to be like the end thing now, especially for folks, because especially with this whole corona nonsense that hit the whole darn globe on top of everything. It's like, all right, definitely got to do this whole business thing now, but not realizing that business takes a while to build. And there's that classic phrase of you build it and they will come. It's like, well, you build it and they'll eventually come if you promote and market your business. And that's,
Hmm.
and even that doesn't work if you don't do it in the proper way, if you don't know your client, or at least get enough attention on your business. So it's so darn true. It's like, hey, like find out what success means for you. Get that self awareness and be okay with not following the entrepreneurial crowd and following our own beliefs and thinking that, hey, I'm supposed to do this thing because everybody else is doing it. So solid message right there.
Yeah,
Solid
exactly. And
message.
then also, like my book, in terms of that, I think it it'll be really good book for anyone, but especially entrepreneurs, because I talk a lot about emphasize on the journey, emphasize on the process. I talk about like destination is not guaranteed, but all your failures, all your, you know, whatever that you need to go through is guaranteed. So it's really the matter of like falling in love with the process. If you can change your narrative about how you might fail, even regardless of your hard work, and then how you can actually acquire that perception as a part of you to become a better person, then and you will definitely become a better person. The more like tough shit you go through, the more capable you are, like frankly, right? So I talk a lot about that, and I think it'll be very helpful for any entrepreneurs who might be discouraged by, many mental gravity.
Beautiful. That's what I'm talking about right there.
Yeah.
So coming down to the magical question that every guest gets to receive, and since you're definitely on the closer to the zero side of the game, you get a special version of it. And that is, if you were to wake up tomorrow and you were 18 in the current year of 2020 with all of your amassed knowledge and experience, what advice would you give to yourself?
I would say don't be afraid, but I really wasn't afraid at that time. So I would just say do you, because you'll be fine. And, you got a lot of time. Because when I was 18, like I think I was just very future like forwarded person. Like I always felt like I didn't have time. And I think this is a myth that a lot of young people also fall into still, even nowadays. But really, like you have time. You have time to fuck up. You don't have to be so worked up. Like don't worry. Just fail as many times as you need and just do you, you know?
Ah, yeah, that's right. Do you? That's right. Even with the Mountain Dew can, just do you. That's what I'm talking about. Beautiful. So, for those who want to keep in magical contact with you and pick up some copies of your book, what's the best way for folks to reach out to the one and only Natsune?
Yeah. So my website is lifeupeducationtv.com. I'm also available on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all that you can find under Life Up Education TV. And YouTube. I have a YouTube channel. I have all my social links in my website so people can find it there. And also, I'm thinking maybe if you can give, I don't know, this is something that I'm just coming off like, in a moment right now, but I want to give out some of the free copies for your listeners. So we'll just arrange something maybe.
Sweet. Sounds like a plan. Sounds like a plan. She's got the blueprint, y'all. She's got the magical blueprint. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So head over to that lifeupeducation.tv. It'll be in the show notes. as well so you can keep up with all that Natsune is doing, because this book is only the beginning of what's more to come, as well as all the stuff she's doing, indeed, all the stuff she's doing. How's it going, you super special, awesome human? Since you made it to the end of this episode, it looks like you really enjoyed yourself. Since you enjoyed this episode, be sure to share it with at least 3 people in your network and tell them what you really liked about this episode.